Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
is this Ponce?
This is.
This is Ryan from Issues.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight?
Um, Doing pretty well. I'm on my roof right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so just kind of unwinding. I work today, so
Do you regularly
trying to
get on the roof of your house?
trying to make more a habit of it while the weather's good. I don't live in a house either. I live in an apartment building.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask you questions. I'm
Mhm.
recording the conversation, so you know.
Okay.
And then in our September 1st edition, it will have the written transcription of the conversation. And then later on in September, I'll release the audio on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And you can feel free to go on tangents, just talk about whatever you like. I'm really only asking the questions as prompts, but I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. That works with me. I can talk forever. So,
Okay, so let's start easy. Who are you and where are you located?
well, my name's Ponce De La France, and I'm not from France, but sometimes I wish I was. Um, right now, I'm based in New York City, where I'm always surrounded by rats and roaches and finance people. And right now, I'm watching a roach kind of slowly get towards me, and it's like a lot of stress. But yeah, that's where I am.
Is that where you're from originally?
Um, no, I'm from New Jersey.
What part of New Jersey?
Um, North Jersey, like close enough to New York. Where I'm from, it's kind of like New York satellite. I just tell people north of Hoboken. Most people know Hoboken and Jersey City, so I'm north of that.
And what was your childhood like? Did your parents do musical things?
No, no, I did not come from a musical or much of a creative household. My parents were immigrants and worked for a living, and both liked music. Both my parents worked in Manhattan, and my mom would go out at night. Liked bands like Blondie and stuff. And my dad, who's a bit older, really liked Frank Sinatra. So those were the two, in terms of naming people that I could relate to my parents with about music. But otherwise, yeah, they didn't make anything.
And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
Um, 26 at the end of this month.
Okay. So, when did you first pick up an instrument?
Oh, that's the first time I played an instrument was a piano. So I think that would be quite the feat to pick it up, if I was however old. But
All right.
no, I played a piano, yeah.
When did you first intentionally activate an instrument? Let's ask it that way.
Yeah. By free will, um,
Well, I
that
assume it
that
wasn't like your
yeah.
parents threw you at it or anything like that. I mean,
No, no, my parents were not Hulk enough to lug a piano at me. Um, but I did take piano lessons when I was young. But that wasn't I don't consider those to be like what made me fall in love with music. That was more just going through the motions of what, your parents think might be best for you to develop. I'd say I first wanted to make music when I was maybe like 13 or 14, and that came in the form. I grew up with a keyboard actually, and I think that it came in the form of me trying to program songs onto my keyboard.
I see programming songs onto your keyboard, so it had some kind of piano roll system in it, or how'd that work?
Yeah, yeah, it was like a Yamaha, kind of like, I'm sure if I knew what MIDI was then, I could have used it as a MIDI controller. This is a keyboard that I must have gotten in like 2006 or 7. I was very young, so It was for the sake of, practice, like because I was taking classes at the time. But once I got older and I got more into electronic music, I kind of realized there was a record function in the keyboard, just like a normal linear timeline of like, record, stop, play. So I figured out how to structure songs using the MIDI samples that were already in the keyboard.
Ah, I see. So, like, about how old were you, would you say, when you were doing that?
At that point, I was like 14.
Okay, 14 years old. And I assume you were in school at the time.
Yeah, I was in high school. I was listening to I was blessed early on to be introduced to experimental music and be close enough to a small city like Hoboken that I would go to the record store, and anything that I found on the internet I could also find in person, and I would usually buy it and listen to it and obsess over it, and try to make music that felt like I was answering to it.
Yeah, for sure. And did you take any formal classes like in school? Were you in band or chorus or anything like that?
I tried. I feel like I took when I was 14, I took some guitar classes that my school hosted, and I didn't find them to be very, very useful. It was, he was teaching me like open chords and bar chords and things that you could just watch in a video. So it's not like I felt like, okay, this is gonna take me places. And then I tried getting in the band, like the jazz band, and they were like, oh, we already have players, but you can play the tuba in the concert band. And I saw how much it was to like rent the tuba, and I'm like, my parents are never gonna do that. I can't afford that. So my career as a professional tuba player wasn't going to pan out.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you're going to spend that money, and then what exactly can you do when you know the tuba? There's not a whole lot of options available to the average tuba player, I don't think.
I'm sure there's a really coveted position in like, the Philadelphia Philharmonics for tuba. But I didn't have that foresight at 14. So, no, I was super influenced by, early DIY, do it yourself music pioneers, so to speak. So I would just, even though school wasn't giving me a lot of avenues to express myself musically, I would still go home and record at home. And I had friends growing up we were just kind of like online internet nerds, and would get into music that way. So it's like, music happened on the internet more than it was happening around me in real life.
I think that's a true story for a lot of people in the last, 10 or 15 years.
Totally.
Did you ever have the opportunity to go to like shows, like house shows or anything?
No, that actually, I'm kind of a late bloomer in that regard. That didn't happen to me until I got to college. Growing up where I did, it's the area's urban in the same. Not that I don't know if you know New York that well, but it's urban in the way that Queens is, where it's kind of like a mix of being residential, and having like some commerce, but house shows didn't really happen because the policing was just so strict. It's like it's not like other parts of Jersey or the US where the cops don't care as much, or if you're someone with a house in the middle of the woods who's going to hear you. It wasn't like that. So and also the scene around me was mostly metal and hip hop.
Yeah.
So I wasn't all of my friends growing up who were into music, they mostly liked, fucking five finger death punch, I think, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the other one that they have, like in Dragon and Flames or something, but like power metal. Like they like power metal and Trivium and what was it, Bring on the Horizon or whatever. Just like stuff I wasn't into. It just wasn't what I wanted. So when I got to college, I was like, okay, I want to go to basement shows. I want to do DIY proper, and that's when I started, doing the more the punk thing.
And where did you go to college?
I went to Rutgers. Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Did you finish a degree?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I got a bachelor's in English, which I remember when I got the degree in the mail because I didn't walk. I graduated during the pandemic, so nothing. Yeah, none of it. I didn't even want to go to the ceremony. I'm not sentimental for things like that. So when I got the degree in the mail, I was like, okay, cool. I have like a degree of literacy. Like, I can prove I read books. But and thus far in real life, it's proved that at most. I live in Manhattan now, where there is such a cross section of a million different types of art scenes, music scenes, literary scenes, and there's so many people who've read things I've never heard of, or I'm like, a college curriculum can only prepare you for so much.
For
in
sure.
my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. So would you say that you have a primary project that you work on?
At the moment, yeah. In terms of my own output, it's what I call robing the bride. I currently play bass in a different band here in the city that I don't really have much creative control in terms of primary songwriting. But I for any song that they give me, I'll come up with bass lines that I think are appropriate for the material. But I wouldn't consider that songwriting per se.
Right.
So robing the bride is like my the primary focus for just like my own compositions and output.
Hello?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, yeah.
You said that your primary focus of output.
of output is robing the bride.
And when did you start that project?
Well, that's tricky because the material. So I've had a couple of projects in my life that have gone and up to varying degrees of success. One of them happened in New Brunswick while I was still a student. I don't think any of the material from that project carried into Robing the Bride. But then prior to Robing the Bride, I had a project called Los Santos that I was doing in the North Jersey area, kind of around where I was from. And I think some of the songs and some of the ideas I had while I was in that project carried into Robing the Bride. So in terms of what comes next, I feel like that will have more of its own identity. But I got the name maybe only a couple of months ago. I had a totally different project name in mind, but I decided to let fate, have its hand, and Robing the Bride is what I ended up calling the project.
So, have you worked much on projects in the past before that?
Yeah, I've been performing as a musician in some capacity since at least 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of it like kind of at the start, like North Jersey DIY. 2019, I had a project in New Brunswick. That project lasted until about last year.
Yeah.
My bandmate from that project, he moved to another part of the country and was kind of, living a very responsible adult life. So the music isn't really at the forefront of his mind.
Uh-huh. Understood. And you said when you were developing musically, a lot of what you were doing was online. Did you have any direct collaborators when you were kind of coming up and learning to play and make music?
I had a best friend growing up that they were the one who introduced me to like online music circles. We were part of like an online forum, and I'm talking. This was back in like 2011, like when the way that people would chat was through Skype.
Right.
So it was like that mode of the internet. And we were actually in the same like Skype group forum with this one artist who is popular in their own right. I'm just going to name drop it because it's fun.
Go for it.
They're Pilot Red Sun. They're an online animator, and they've released music in their own right. But and have like animations with like millions of views, and totally deserve it. Like they're so talented. And it was really weird because I was just like in a Skype chat with this person, and like I remember once, we were on Skype just kind of like playing Minecraft or something, and I had my keyboard on, and I was playing the main melody to Constantinople by the Residents, and they pointed it out. They were the Pilot Red Sun was PRS. We would call him PRS. Was like, oh, are you playing the Residents right now? And I was like so excited. I'm like, yeah, I am. So that was like not a mentorship per se, but being in like a virtual space with other internet creatives at a time where I don't think there was any real precedence for that. It was like, oh, people just do things.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just people just acting and creating because they want to, and then especially when you have like, I'll call that like a like a proto collective. Let's say when you have like a proto collective, it's to make each other laugh and to excite one another. So I'd say that was a really early developmental experience of being like wanting to get in with people who were making things I thought were cool, and then trying to impress them. I thought my friend though, who I actually knew in real life, like they were more infinitely talented than I was, I would say. But I don't know. I kept going with it.
Well, good. What would you say? What do you normally like to use in terms of instrumentation when you're recording?
I've gotten more into hardware lately, actually. On the recordings that you reviewed, I think only one or two of those tracks actually uses any hardware.
Yeah.
Outside of like a guitar,
Right.
All the guitars and the bass, those are actual instruments I own. Otherwise, I record and mix with Ableton. So I like using the Ableton drum machines, but then I have my own like actual hardware drum machines. And I haven't released any of it, but I've been kind of fucking around with like acid house and real just like dirty lo-fi techno shit.
Yeah.
And that's something I think, I don't know if that'll be Robing the Bride, but that's something I really want to continue to try to make and put out because it's fun. But usually I kind of start with it starts with anything I have. Like I've got, my bedroom is my recording studio, and I've got like, a couple basses, a guitar, drum machines. So usually I just kind of like fuck around for a little bit until I get into a workflow, and then I hit record, and then it's just kind of working from there.
Got you. And how many albums have you released?
Across my life through the internet.
Well, let's start with Robing the Bride.
Yeah.
Let's start with Robing the Bride.
So far just the one EP.
Okay.
I have about 5 or 6 songs that I'm planning on releasing in the future. I'll probably submit those too, see if you like them. But yeah, those would go under the Robing the Bride title. Among other projects, like I put out a cassette for my New Brunswick project, totally DIY. Like I ordered the cassettes online, dubbed them myself. I had a tape deck, so I did that myself and mixed it all. And we had one. At the time I had a producer, and he helped us record 2 tracks like in studio. But other than that, it was like all in my bedroom. That was like a tape, and we sold those at shows, and I ended up giving them to friends because, I just wanted to move them.
Yeah.
So I want to do that again. I'd love to have physical releases, but I learned from doing it with that project, like it's the most rewarding when you know that you're actually going to get out there and be able to move them and share them.
For sure. For sure. And so when you were first learning, you said you were about 14 when you started working on your own music. For the first few years, what did working on music look like? What was your sort of way of making music in the early days?
A lot of it was that Yamaha keyboard actually played such a big role early on. Funny enough, and I think I gave that away, and I like got rid of it at one point. Yeah, my friend growing up told me about Audacity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, cool, you can just like do whatever with this software. I remember going to Radio Shack, and because like the output of the keyboard only had, I think, like a 1/4 inch output, so I had to get like a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, and would take that and plug it into the microphone input on my computer, and then route that into it. So like, yeah, just like the fartiest tones ever. It was like the fartiest stuff. And then I had, I got like a shitty Ibanez guitar, one of like the pre-packs where it comes with a micro amp. I had one of those. Like, I had an electric guitar, an electric bass, which to plug now, because I like supporting my friends. I love I'm all about the communal element of music and shouting people out. I have a buddy of mine, also from like Jersey City, the North Jersey area. His project name is Glockto Twins. It's like kind of digital hardcore egg punk. On one of his tracks, there's a bass guitar, and that was actually the bass I had when I was 15. I like traded it to him, and he used it, and he has like some decent, listens on Spotify. He's gotten lucky like that, and I'm just kind of personally proud because like one of my instruments is in a really good song.
Hell yeah.
I didn't play on it though, but I gave it to him. But so point being, I had a really shitty bass guitar, a really shitty electric guitar, a really shitty keyboard, and this 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch output into my laptop. Not even laptop, it was a desktop, into my desktop, running Audacity. And I would track like that, and then for vocals, I would use the built-in desktop microphone. I would just lean in real close and sing whatever I wanted to say and say whatever I want. And it's all on Bandcamp. All that stuff is still on Bandcamp, actually.
What's the website address?
I won't say.
Okay.
I won't say because it's I was 15.
Yeah.
And just doing it because I wanted to. I would make accounts on like experimental music forums, and I would post it, and people would like respond. Like, people would actually listen and kind of be like, whoa, how did you make it sound like this? And I'm just like, I'm just doing this in my bedroom. But those are formative experiences of just kind of like, oh, if you do something and share it, usually people will listen, and people would like it too. No one ever told me to stop.
I mean, that's to me, that's like proof of concept, because if you're gonna live a lifestyle where you're making music, and making money from it is fun, but if you're gonna do it no matter what happens that way,
Mm-hmm.
then it's
totally, yeah.
Then you have to, it's gonna be someone like you who's literally using whatever is within their, control to be able to use, like singing into the desktop microphone and like using this little, using your Yamaha keyboard and stuff like that's, to me, like, people who do that are the ones who really are the DIY artists. They're the ones that are just gonna do it no matter what.
Yeah, no, it's beyond all of that, I don't. Yeah, I'm still in love with what DIY means to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm fortunate to continue meeting people who live in that environment and create like that.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's the music. I won't even talk about the music industry because even that I've only gotten so close to. It's like music should be about self-expression and sharing what you have with the world. And I think that, yeah, money complicates everything. I'm so convinced anyone who says they're making a living doing music is lying. Like it can't come from there. I don't think it works like that. I feel like if you're doing music, you'll do it at a loss. You'll do it and work a job you hate. It's something that you have to do.
Well, yeah, and if you really have this inward thrust to create, I guess the point that I'm getting at is if you have this inward thrust to create, you won't be stopped. Like you're going to,
Yeah.
like I knew drummers that before they had drum sets, they were playing with pencils on cookie tins and stuff like that. It's just going.
Oh yeah.
It's going to come out no matter what, and then that's all I really was trying to say. Nothing necessarily so philosophical, but like it's gonna come out no matter what. If it's gonna come out.
Yeah.
So, do you perform out?
Yeah. At the moment, I'm not doing any original material, but like I mentioned, I do play bass for a band in the city right now.
Okay, what's that band like?
Yeah. I'll plug it because I like the band and I like the people I play with. It's called Johnny St. Grace. That's the project name. It's weird, but not not like weird. It's like it's I don't know. It's a rock band, which sounds lame, but it's not a rock band. I'd say so there's a female lead. She's got this kind of Kate Bush thing going on, and then the songs are arranged that they're very kind of smoky. They can get dark in terms of the ambiance, but like it's fun, sexy music. I had a friend who came to watch us play. That he apparently ran a DIY label in San Francisco, a million years ago.
Okay,
He's an older guy, but yeah, he saw us perform at a venue out here, and he was like, "You guys are." It's like a perfect balance of like, oh my God, what did he say? He said it was like smarmy. God, I'm blanking on it now because we like to say smoky. We're a very smoky band, just like very, just like almost like could be burlesque, but isn't. It's like tasteful enough, but definitely leaning in that terrain of like almost tantalating. But all my bandmates, we all like weird music too, which I really like, and most of the people in the band aren't from the tri-state. They're from like the South or the Midwest, and so they like weirdos like Jandek and half Japanese, which to me is like awesome. But like those are artists that like half Japanese especially was like, oh, I want to make music like that. And it's honestly hard. At least when I was living in New Jersey, it was hard to find people who had that level of freedom to just totally like let loose like a band like that. But fortunately, like we all see that in music. We all see that in what we're doing. But there's a lot of focus in the project, which I also really like.
Yeah, that's great. What made you decide to cross the river and move into New York City, would you say?
I guess it's cliche, but opportunity. As much as I lived in New Brunswick and got involved with like a DIY and punk scene, it was never the DIY I thought it would be. Like my idea of DIY was, and this is like me, RCV Moore, half Japanese, the residents, like the weirdos, like these like really weird people making like anti-pop.
Correct. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then devoting their lives to doing it. And when I was living in New Brunswick, it was more also like, I was there from 2016 to 2021. So it was with the emergence of like online DIY, like TikTok DIY, Bandcamp DIY, that it's more, people from the Midwest, I think, emulating what they heard growing up on the radio. Which I resented the radio growing up. I didn't, I would go through the radio not finding any of it interesting or relatable until I found WFMU. And I don't know if you know that station, do you?
I don't. I'm in North Carolina, but please tell me.
So which I'm to self-promote, I might be DJing soon at WFMU. I've been helping them for some months now, doing stuff.
Cool.
And they were a station that RCV Moore DJ'd at. They were a station. One of their DJs, Erwin Chisid, pioneered the term outsider music and wrote a whole book about it. So they're, and this is the Jersey pride in me coming out. Like they're one of the through lines for like promoting and keeping that, I think, like world of experimental music alive and visible. And that to me was like the essence of DIY and being so anti, to a degree anti-capitalist, but also anti-internet, anti-authoritarian, like, not letting people tell you what to do or how to express yourself. And the DIY I saw in New Jersey was so not that. It was more, it was people looking to conform to what they knew and conform to each other's standards, which I don't know. I grew up too close to New York. That's what I think, and too close to immigrants, like my parents are immigrants, and it's like there's so much more than what people tell you. And I think it's more encouraging to tell people to look beyond what they see and beyond what they're told. And I just wasn't finding that in New Jersey. So that's why I moved to New York. It's like, this is the ultimate, the moment you're here, it'll fuck you, unapologetically.
Well, is there anything you're working on right now?
Yeah, a couple of things. I play bass in Johnny St. Grace. I play bass for Grace. We're playing shows in the Manhattan area. So for anyone who, I feel like by the time I promote this, it'll have passed. But we played a show August 16th, and you missed it, and you should regret missing it because it was a really good show. We also played a show September 1st, and that show was divine. We actually, so yeah, that band, it's actually low key. There's a bit of a Catholic undertone to it.
Which band?
I won't get too Johnny St. Grace.
And ironic or sincere?
That's the tricky part. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like would you consider this late in the interview or?
Yeah, but I mean, you just intrigued me, so let's just go with it. I want to find out about it.
Yeah. No, it intrigued me too. It's not my story to tell, but I'll be honest, like I went to Catholic school and stuff and have a difficult relationship with it. But the lead of this band, she's someone who went down, the chaos magic route and the that whole. We love Genesis. We love Psychic TV and Throbbing. Like we love the weird shit and the dark shit. But
yeah, kind
of like there's a bit of a turnaround, I would say, and I've met a couple people like this in New York. I'll be honest, who go that way and get kind of disenchanted, and then find other faiths. Like I have a friend that you got like a chaos magic star like tattooed on her body, and then tried to cover it up, and got really into Cabal because she was raised Jewish. And it's like interesting seeing this turnaround of occult faith to then, I'll say, quote unquote conventional faith. I don't know. I like religion. I like not organized religion. I like spirituality. I think everyone should explore that element to them. And this is a project where there is that mindfulness and there is that drive, but then it's like, yeah, kind of like ironically enough, coming through Catholicism, that to me, I'm like, whoa, this is like weird. But it's not like Christian rock, it's not like Catholic rock or anything like that. But she explores her relationship with Jesus through like, Doorsy sounding rock music. It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like your friends, they kind of jumped from one mysticism to another, in a way. They were kind of on one mystical path, and then they sort of went onto a different mystical path.
I feel a lot of, I don't know if you're even getting too weird about it, I don't know if you're acquainted with like, light and dark magic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I feel like, you can stare into the abyss. To jump in, I think is really challenging. And I don't know. I'm someone who could only, dive so deep, where I studied Buddhism while I was in school. Another motivation for moving to New York was like reading the Beats. And I was more of like a Kerouac Ginsberg person than say Burroughs.
Sure.
Because I know like I've been to Burroughs's I've been to his apartment. It's like you can go there, and when you go on the door is a psychic cross, like the echo is still there. But there's also,
I like the work of Ginsberg a lot better than the other two. But do you know that Burroughs had an orgone energy accumulator in his house?
I sat in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been in it. No, I'm also, I'm a believer. I'll say this because it's a cool story. One of the most, like, I feel like a really important moment for me artistically or faith-wise was I went to the Rubin Museum in Chelsea, which it's going to be closing soon, which is like a shame. But most of their collection was like Buddhist and Tibetan artifacts tied to Buddhism and Hinduism. And they had in their like contemporary aisle a piece by Genesis P-Orridge, and it was a cast of their hand, and I think it was cast in bronze. And next to it was a Brian Geisen quote that said, "It's like I think it was like, to touch is to learn," or wisdom is spread through touch, which Genesis was really big on. And I like I spent a good while touching that hand. And I think there was definitely a transference of energy. And that was such an enlightening moment of considering that in terms of pursuing an artistic life. But I don't know if you know much else about Genesis. They're not, weren't the best person personally.
I have I recorded an entire audiobook of the Psychic Bible that's on our YouTube channel.
I saw it. Yeah. I did my research.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm so, I tried to come from everything as like a being of love, and wanting to help people and support people, but then also like there's a lot of darkness out there, and I feel like it's so important to try to promote hope and support and a good energy in the world. And I don't know, I feel like that's something implicitly I try to explore with my music just by virtue of creating.
Sure. Well,
But anyways, yeah. So I play in that band. I have more music that will come out under Robing the Bride, and then eventually I'll be on the, I might be on the WFMU airwaves. Um, I won't be Ponce. I'll probably be DJ Bonce. That's what I'm thinking of a DJ name.
I got you.
Yeah, and I'll be playing all the music I love.
Do you, other than what we've already talked about, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
It's hard to say right now. I have, I have some. I also do. I do some video art. Kind of like video cut up stuff actually with VHSs, and I'll make some industrial stuff to that. Um, but that's all up in the air in terms of whether it'll get screened or not. But that's one of my own personal ambitions, is to just kind of make more video work. Make more video work related to the music I make, and put that out in the world.
Very nice. The last question is there anything you were hoping to be able to talk about that you have not been able to? And if so, please feel free to do so.
That's a, what were some point, yeah, because I've been planning of certain things to talk about. Yeah, nothing really at this moment. I feel like we've explored a lot.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of material here. Yeah, artistically, I feel what I'm doing is kind of like well, I guess one thing I would say, one day, hopefully sooner than later, I'd like to have a band of my own again. But I continue to collaborate as a player, but I've had projects and I've had people that I've collaborated with where, and the beauty of DIY of no rules and exploring at all boundaries, it's like you just gel with energy and make really cool creative stuff. It's actually been really hard to find that in New York. I feel like New York, people are, and it's the pressure of just being able to survive here. Like everyone is thinking about rent. Everyone is thinking about whether they want to or not, like how to stay and how to not die. So it's like really hard.
I would say everything is thinking about that.
Well, for the artist, I'm gonna say for the artist, because I feel and for no, yeah, there's the U.S. is awful. I'll put that on the record. Like the U.S. is such a debilitated, state as a country. I want to leave, like I'm sure a lot of people do, because it doesn't, especially as a creative, it doesn't feel like there's any hope for anything that feels really organic and driven, and also supportive of human life. But it's like I think the beauty of DIY is when you are just meeting with people in your community and creating art and growing with those people in an organic fashion. That I've found, I've had the opportunity to play cool venues in New York and play good music, but it's like, it's different when you're just with your friends or I started as someone making music in my, childhood bedroom with my friends on the internet. And it's like, it's been weird translating that to like, the quote unquote real world. But
I've always preferred, if the crowd's going to be the same size either way, I've always preferred playing a house to playing a bar. That's me personally. But
I agree. The caveat for me is when what's being played in the house is meant to translate, to a large venue for publicity's sake.
Right.
I think when,
Right. I mean, because some bands are, not everyone has the same values, which isn't me digging on them or anything, but I'm always looking for the people that are doing it because they want to do something creative and want to do something collaborative.
Yeah. And daring, and not considerate of any of the status quo or traits of success that might go with like being a bar band, being a venue band. I'll just say from my experience where it's like, yeah, once you're playing those venues, it's there's a lot of foundation of what you can't do. That when you're playing house shows and are booking in that environment, I feel the exact opposite. It's the right attitude is like, we want anything and everything.
Right.
And I staunchly believe in that. What I will say, New York City is not the environment for that.
I believe that because it's too
yeah.
It's too high pressure, probably.
It's too it's high pressure and it's high pressure and also time.
Yeah.
The value of time changes a lot in this environment because, like, people just have the time to see something they've never seen before in someone's basement. Like, why not?
Right.
But when you're in the city, you could go to X amount of other things that might be quote unquote worth your time.
I agree.
Yeah. So whatever. I obviously support what you're doing and everything about it. And, I submitted to play American Babylon. So I've had friends who've told me about that for years.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I've known about it for a while.
Did you submit as
Robing the Bride?
Robing the Bride? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be a full band. Hopefully, maybe, if the stars align by then, I might have some players who'd be willing to make the trek down. But I'd so be willing to do something independent.
I'm making the flyer. Like, I'm just waiting on this one artist to get me their band name so I can finish making the flyer, and then from there I'll get in contact with everybody individually to be like, hey, this is the day that we want you to come out and stuff. But if you submitted, you're playing. I'm just gonna let you know that. So
thank you. I'll be there. I'll make the trek down.
That'd be cool.
I think there's a lot. I don't know. Yeah, there's so much beauty, I think, in what you're doing and what you're coordinating, and it's like, I don't know if it's, yeah. Now I just want to talk as like a person. But you ever heard of research, real quick?
The band? Is it a band? Or are you just making a joke?
No. Research by V Vale.
No.
From. Okay, I'll say it on record because I think everyone should. What you're doing is really similar to that. It's called Research by this guy V Vale. It was based out of the Bay Area in San Francisco. No, it was based out of San Francisco. Look into it. Everyone, look into it. I think that's good inspiration for what we're all trying to do.
Cool. I will look into it.
Awesome. Yeah, cool.
We can talk another time. That would be nice. Are you my friend on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot?
Instagram, yeah, I don't do Facebook I know it's both meta, but I've kind of abandoned Facebook. It doesn't work the way that it should to connect people.
Okay. Well, you can definitely contact me. There is usually the easiest place to contact me.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd like to chat again sometime when it's not an interview.
Absolutely, yeah. No, keep in touch.
Thank you for letting me spend this time with you and talk to you. And like I said, it'll be out on the 1st. And, one thing. If you can send me pictures of yourself performing, as many as you got, it would be very helpful.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll also send some. I recently took some what a friend called as personality shots of Robing and the Bride.
Okay.
I'll share that too because they're visually interesting. But also I'll include photos of me performing in different contexts. Yeah.
And also if album covers, that's also another thing I could include.
Okay, totally. Yeah.
Just to fill the article out because, when I'm doing layout, it helps me to make it more precise to have a picture I can shrink or grow,
Totally. Yeah, no, I'll give you more than enough. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you doing this, and I had fun.
That's good. Fun is important.
And I hope you have a good night.
Same to you. All right. Good night.
Good night.